What exactly is a foreclosure? What is a short sale? If you're looking to buy a home, chances are you're going to run across a few foreclosures and short sale properties. You've also probably heard a lot about how foreclosures and short sales can be a good deal and can be a way to get a property at a really cheap price. However, is it really worth all the hype? Stay tuned and we'll find out. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel where I explain everything there is about buying and selling a home. Once again, my name is Rob Bailey, realtor in the Chicagoland area with ARNI Realty Inc. And today I'm going to talk about foreclosures and short sales. Foreclosures and short sales are what I like to call distressed properties. And these properties are distressed because with foreclosures and short sales, you're dealing with a seller who either wasn't able to pay a mortgage, so they lost their home to the bank, or they're in the process of losing their home to the bank. So with these homes, buying them is a little bit different from buying your average home. So I'm going to go over why foreclosures and short sales are different from buying the average home, and I'm going to go over whether short sales and foreclosures are even worth going after like everybody says they are. Also, don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what real estate topics you want me to cover in the future. First, let's start with foreclosures. A foreclosure is a property that the bank took back from a seller because the seller defaulted on their mortgage. Since the seller was not able to pay their mortgage payments on time, the bank decided to take over the property and is now going to attempt to sell it in order to get some of the money back that they loaned. Foreclosures became really popular after the stock market crash of 2008 and 2009 because there were a lot of people who were not able to pay their mortgages, so banks were forced to take those homes back. Those homes were then popping up on the market as foreclosures and at extremely discounted prices. So if you had the money to buy a home during that time, you were able to get a home for probably half the cost. That's why foreclosures are so popular and you hear so much about them today. As you probably already know, foreclosures are usually in pretty bad condition because it can take up to a year or even longer for a bank to foreclose on a home once a seller stops paying their mortgage. During that time, chances are the seller doesn't have the money to maintain the home, so they just let it fall into disrepair. So, in theory, you should be able to buy a foreclosure at a discounted price, make all the repairs that's needed, and that way you can find a really good deal on a home, right? Before you come to that conclusion, here are a few things that you might not know. First, the foreclosure market isn't nearly as deep as it was 10 or even 5 years ago. Nowadays, there just aren't that many foreclosures on the market. The real estate market has rebounded a lot since then, so there aren't nearly as many people defaulting on their loans like there was back in 2009 and 2010. When dealing with the bank and buying a foreclosure, you have to realize that that property is strictly as is, meaning the bank is not going to do any repairs. When you're dealing with the regular seller, even if the home is sold as is, you can negotiate during the inspection period if you found some sort of major repair that needs to be done, and the seller may be able to fix the problem for you or at least offer you a seller credit. With the bank, they aren't doing any of that. You just have to take the home or leave it. That's just the way it is. Because foreclosures are strictly as is, that means that more than likely you will not be able to use an FHA loan to buy a foreclosure. That's right. That popular first-time homebuyer program that helps you save on your down payment, you cannot use that to buy a foreclosure. The reason is because foreclosures tend to be in such bad condition that there is no way that they can pass an FHA inspection, so FHA will not lend you the money to buy that home. This is something you really need to keep in mind if you plan on using an FHA loan to buy a home. If you run across a foreclosure, chances are you need to avoid it because the property will not qualify for your loan. Now for the big question. Are foreclosures really worth going after? 10 years ago, pretty much any foreclosure you ran across would be a good deal because the price would be so discounted. If you had a way to get it, it was worth it for you to buy. Nowadays, however, that's not quite the case. Here's why. First, as I mentioned before, there aren't as many foreclosures as there were in the past. On top of that, buyer demand is pretty high. there are a lot of people out there looking to buy homes. So if you pair that high buyer demand along with the low inventory of foreclosures, this is causing the price of foreclosures to rise. Nowadays, once a foreclosure hits the market, if the price is right, you can almost guarantee that it's going to get multiple offers. Not only multiple offers, multiple cash offers. Buyers that are using loans now often have a hard time finding a foreclosure because a lot of times they are simply beat out by these all cash offers. Cash is king in real estate, so the bank is most likely going to take that cash offer all day over an offer that has a loan attached to it. The only real way for a buyer who is using a loan to win a multiple offer situation with the foreclosure is to offer a lot more money than everybody else. And if you have to offer a lot more money than everybody else, at some point it's no longer worth it to buy the foreclosure because you were looking to buy the foreclosure because it's supposed to be cheap in the first place. This doesn't mean that you can't find a deal with the foreclosure. However, just keep in mind that foreclosures are no longer an automatic deal like they were 10 years ago. You have to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure to research similar properties in the area, because just because it's a foreclosure doesn't mean it's a good deal anymore. So how exactly do you buy a foreclosure today? To buy a foreclosure in today's market, you're going to need one of two things. You're going to either need all the cash on hand to buy the home outright, as well as the cash to make the repairs, or you're going to need to have a conventional loan as well as have the cash on hand to make the repairs once you buy the home. You're not going to be able to use an FHA loan, and if you try to use an FHA 203K loan, you're going to have a hard time getting a bank to accept your offer. The reason is because banks hate those FHA 203K loans because they take so long to close. So they'd rather just accept an all-cash offer where they can close in a few weeks versus accepting a 203K offer where it's going to take a few months to close. Next, let's move on to short sales. A short sale is a property that has two things going on for it. First, the seller owes more on their mortgage than what they can sell the home for. Second, that seller is behind on their mortgage payments and is at risk of foreclosure. Since the seller is no longer able to make their mortgage payments, they're now trying to sell the home as quickly as possible in order to get the property out of their names and to avoid foreclosure, which looks really bad on their credit. Because they can't sell their home for enough money to pay off their mortgage, they now need their bank's permission to sell the home and to accept that lower price payment. Here's how negotiating a short sale works. First, you're going to negotiate with the seller and offer them a price just like you would any other home. The only thing is, the seller is going to be so motivated to get out of this property, they are probably going to accept any price that you throw at them. The reason is because since they owe more on their mortgage than what they can sell the home for, they're not going to make any money out of this deal anyway. So they're just trying to get their name off of the property as fast as possible. And like I said before, they're trying to avoid being foreclosed on and having that ding on their credit. After you and the seller agree to a deal, the seller then has to submit the contract to the bank for approval. The bank can often take pretty long to let you know what their response is. They can take anywhere from a few weeks to even a few months. The bank will then order what's called a BPO, or a broker price opinion, on the home in order to find out what the home is really worth in today's market. Once they receive that BPO, the bank will then submit a counteroffer to you. This is where it can get ugly. I've seen many cases where the bank will submit a much higher counteroffer than what you offered in the first place, because remember, the bank is trying to get as much money as they can out of this property. It's not uncommon for a bank to counteroffer at a price that's even higher than the price the home was originally listed at. Imagine receiving a counteroffer for a price even higher than what you expected after waiting for months to hear back from the bank. That, in a nutshell, is the downside to short sales. While it's easy to come to an agreement with the seller, you have no idea what the bank is going to come back with. If you wait a few months just for the bank to counter with a high price, at that point you may find that the short sale is no longer worth it for you. So if you are a buyer who's looking into buying a short sale, I suggest that you have a lot of patience, because you never know how long it's going to take for the bank to respond to your offer, and you never know what the bank is going to come back with. Also, remember that the entire time the bank is coming up with their response, they're holding on to your earnest money, and you're losing opportunities to look at other homes that are coming onto the market. So at the end of the day, whether a short sale is a good deal or a bad deal really depends on the bank. If the bank is willing to negotiate and let the home go for a low price, then hey, you've gotten a really good deal. If the bank is pretty adamant on getting as much money as possible for that home, however, then you just end up wasting months of your time with nothing to show for it. Alright guys, so that's my video going over foreclosures as well as short sales and even auction properties. Any questions or comments, as always, feel free to reach out to me either at my website, which is baileyacresproperties.com, or through the comments below. Once again, my name is Rob Bailey, Realtor in the Chicagoland area with ARNI Realty Inc. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.